Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's session. Let me check whether everything good here. Okay, good. Thank you for joining us for today's sessions. My name is Guinea. Today we have an expert to present the session. I would like to introduce today's presenter, Sharon. And Sharon is an expert and enthusiast in Ansible automation, containerization, and many other technologies. So he will talk about his experience and interest very soon. So today we are going to present Ansible AWX and the installation of Ansible AWX in Kubernetes platform. This knowledge sharing will be recorded and will be available in the same YouTube channel, same URL, so you can refer it anytime. We will also share the slide pack later, so please check the description of this video to find the link to download the same. Not now. We would love to hear from you. So ask your questions in the chat or comment box anytime. We will try to answer as much as possible, and also there will be a Q&A slot at the end of the session. So we will try to cover all questions. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Sharon. Sharon, the stage is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Ginny. Hello, everyone. My name is Maithili Pitani. I'm working as a systems engineer in AutoZone. I have a vast experience on Linux, Ansible, AWX, and OpenShift and Kubernetes. Today, I'm here to present how to set up AWX on Kubernetes platform. So for this, we're going to use the Minikube and the AWX operator and show you the demo of the AWX. As you know, AWX backend uses Ansible engine, which is like an open source and used for a configuration management or any application deployments. And a little bit of AWX, Ansible it's like a agentless, and it uses the playbook as a blueprint to automate your tasks. So basically, which we have like our Ansible control node where we set up our inventory host files and the playbooks and executes on the target nodes. And the GUI version of the Ansible is the AWX, which is the open source platform, where it has a good user interface and REST API. And on top of it, it has the Ansible engine. And basically, AWX stands for Ansible Works, as per according to Michael Dehan, who is the founder of the Ansible. And why Ansible AWX? Because it's an open source version of Ansible Tower, and it's free to use. It has a good GUI-based and RESTful API options, and AWX has a very good role-based access control and easy push button to execute the playbooks, and good workflow jobs where we can execute 2 to 3, 1 or more jobs at a time. And it has a good centralized logging, like who executed the job at so and so time, and like it's for good logging. And this is the Ansible AWX structure where we have the users and the admins, and we have the playbooks where we can store like from the Git or any source control manager like Git or GitLab, and AWX where we set up all the playbooks using the projects and where we control the RBACs. So once we set up the projects, the inventories, and the credentials, and once we execute in the backend, it uses Ansible engine to connect or execute the task on the target nodes, which can be either any infrastructure or networks or any containers like Docker, Kubernetes, or any cloud platforms like GCP or AWS or any databases. So the AWX has a structure where we have an organization, where the organization has all the inventories, teams, projects, and the jobs are come under one set of organization, and inventory is basically the set of the target host names we use, or any host names or any infrastructure, where we can separate them like the groups or hosts. So basically, groups to say like we have different Unix, Linux flavors where we can separate them using the groups under inventories, and the teams are the one where we can use to set up the RBACs for each users or each groups and their credentials, and also the basically the setting up the permissions for the users. And the projects is the one where we sync up from the AWX with our respective Git or GitLab repos. Um, and from where we will be creating the job templates, executing those job templates are the jobs. Basically, executing the playbooks are the job logs for that. And as you know, AWX is a community-based project. It's sponsored by Red Hat, and these are the reference links for them. And as I mentioned, AWX, we have the source code repository where we store all of our playbooks, and we have some, we can say we have a different branches like master, feature, and the development branch. And AWX is the one where we integrate in the project where we put the source control link and the respective branch if you want use, or we can just use a default branch. And the connection to target nodes it uses through SSH, and the background uses the Ansible engine. And anytime when we execute a job, it executes a job using through the SSH connection. And we'll be seeing everything is in the nice QE format. And this is the basic workflow on the AWX where we set up the organization, and credentials is like one for the Git or GitLab, and the machine credentials, any kind of credentials we set up, and any SCM credentials are used for the project, and any other credentials, either machine or any kind of other credentials is used for inventories we use. And based on that, we create a template, and executing that template is the job performed on the respective target nodes. And some of the features of the AWX are it has a real-time good playbook output, and it has an easy push button to execute your jobs, and secure authentication. And you can also set up the notifications once a specific job is executed, or you can also schedule a job, say like now you're performing an after business hours, say like OS update, and we can schedule that job to run after business hours at particular time. And this is the basic AWX dashboard. And it has a multiple authentications I mentioned before. Like you can use a standard AWX username, or you can integrate your SAML authentication, LDAP authentication, or any Google authentication, or GitHub, any one as per the organization requirement. And every playbook are executed in a CH environment as the AWX user. And again, it executes the playbooks with respect to the RBAC roles we set up in the AWX. So say we have two users where we created a role saying like, they can read, write, and execute all the commands. And the next one, say we have a project and we want to give Josie user only the auditor role, and the cutter role we can set up in such a way like he can be an admin on the project, he can have admin permission on the inventory, and he can be a member for a specific team where he can give only deploy permissions, basically execute only the jobs. So this is how we can set up the RBACs, which is like very fine-tuned. And the inventories are pretty much similar to the Ansible inventory files, where we set up the group under the group names, or host names with respect, like as the standard Ansible inventory file names. And we can also set up the multiple inventories. And we can also sync up with the cloud, like a GCP, Google Cloud, or Azure AWS using the dynamic scripts we have, or we can set up our own custom inventory scripts. And as I said, templates or jobs, basically it's a collection of playbooks And template is basically nothing but like executing, basically using the playbook and executing that playbook with the respective credentials is nothing but the job template, and executing that job template is nothing but the uh, job, and every job executed has a job ID, and it can be we can is based on that job ID we can see the logs like who executed the job, or the output of the job can be viewed later also. And we have a workflow job template, which is basically a set of one or more uh, job templates that we can execute at a time. And the workflow job template, say like we have a job template 1, 2, 3, and we can set up in such a way like suppose execute the job template 1, and once it is success, go to the job template 2, or and once it is success, uh, execute job template 3. This is how we can set up um, the basic job workflow. And the supported version, supported platforms for AWX, we can use it on Kubernetes or OpenShift or Docker. So this is like a intro about the AWX and about its functionalities. And as I said, like this is the AWX dashboard where it has detailed information, how many hosts has been integrated, how many hosts has been failed or not could able to add, and how many inventories we have, how many projects and how many projects are not synced. And here is a nice job status. It shows how many, like on which date I executed and everything. And the recent jobs, it shows like what the recent jobs I executed and which user it is, and the recent templates I created. So as I mentioned, for every job, it creates an ID. So it's like 8 is a job ID here, and this is a job name. And it shows the detailed job output. Um, and you can also see like what is the status of the job and what time it has been executed, what time it's finished, and also who launched it and what inventory it has. Like every item detail we need for the job, it shows up here. And so which has a good logging of the job. And as I mentioned, schedules are the one where we can schedule a specific job at specific time to execute it. And these are the resources where I said the templates where we create a job ID using the playbooks. So we can name any name for the job template, and job type can be run or check mode. And organization is a default organization, but we can create one. And the inventory we're going to use it on, and the project, and the execution environment basically is a CH root environment I mentioned before, and what playbook we're going to use it. And I used to become yes, which is a privilege escalation, and the credentials we're going to use on the target nodes. That's about the job template. And the credentials, I created 2 credentials. One is for the source control, which I'm using my GitHub repository, and the machine credentials, which I have the target machines, the Linux machines. So credentials, I'm using that one. And the projects is again the same thing. We can name the project name. And here we have to input the source control link of your GitHub repo. And since we're using the Git, we're using the source type as a Git and the credentials for that. And basically it uses the default path on the AWX server, which is valid AWX projects, where it, once we sync the project, it's going to clone that repo under this location. And once you input all the variables, you can use the sync button, then it syncs up the projects onto the local AWX server. And here the inventory files, like you can name the inventory name, and you can set the variables that needed. And the host, like say I have 1 CentOS and 1 Ubuntu, and you can just put again the variables you need for that host. And once it is done, we can save the inventory, and the inventory file is created. And here it shows again detail what are the hosts available on from this AWX. As I mentioned, organization, it has a default organization, but we can create one and set up all our inventory groups, everything under part of that organization. And again, the users, here we can create who needs access to AWX. We can create the users, or if we have some other LDAP integrations, we'll be adding that in the part of the settings. And the teams, we can create the users as like, teams are basically nothing but the groups. Like say we have like 3 users and we can have them like, have user 1 and 2 in group 1 and user 3 in the group 2. And these are other credentials type, like say we have a Kubernetes cluster and we want to integrate with the Kubernetes cluster, we can put all the kubectl config information and we can perform the task from the AWX. And the notifications, say if we have a specific job completed and we want to have some mail notifications set up, we can use the notifications which sends notification that the job executed successfully or failed. And we can set up the applications, and we have the execution environments where it executes the backend of the jobs. And there are some AWX settings, as I mentioned. You can set up authentication settings here for SAML or GitHub or any kind of credential and authentication we can set up here, and the job settings, and some AWX settings where we can, if you want to have some admin password change or any kind of admin related or AWX server related settings, you can change over here. So that's all of the presentation. Now I will give you the demo. This is my GitHub repo. I'm going to share it after this presentation. Basically, we're using the Minikube and the AWX operator to deploy the AWX, and I have created a document for the detailed steps where you guys can set up in your own personal laptops. And so we're using a Minikube where we're setting up a virtual machine on the virtual box with 4 CPUs and 6 gigs of RAM with the latest Kubernetes version, which is 1.20, and enabling the network with the flannel. And once you execute that, it starts setting up your virtual machine. And also, good thing about Minikube, it also sets up your kube config where you can directly access your pods or any kind of deployments running on this cluster. And basically, as you all know, Minikube is a tool to set up a local Kubernetes cluster, and it's a single node Kubernetes cluster, but it has all the Kubernetes cluster features that needed to be performed. And this takes like maybe 2 to 4 minutes. Yeah, so the minikube installation part is done, and you can verify your cluster uh, kubectl get nodes. And here we have one minikube node, and it has been installed with Kubernetes version 1.20. And you can make sure you have all your parts up and running, the kube system and everything, and everything is running. Let's wait for the etcd minikube to have it running. Okay, so now it's up and running. We can apply the AWX operator where it helps deploy the AWX images. And I'm using the latest operator version, which is the 0.12.0. And everything is deployed under the default namespace. And we'll wait till the pod is up and running. Okay. Now we can apply made a secret for where basically it sets the password for the AWX for the admin account. And once this one is done, and we have AWX deploying file where it creates a service with a node port, and it also creates the AWX, the host name for the service, and this deploys all the AWX needed containers in the pod. So you can go ahead and apply this one. So once it is created, you can see the logs for the deploying, and you can see it's running the back end, all the AWX installation needed to bring it up on the Kubernetes infrastructure. Basically, it's a mini queue for us here. And once this installation is done, we should be able to see all the pods are up and running. As you can see, it's creating the Postgres pod and the default AWX pod. As you see, the pods are created, and basically it's going to have the four containers where it has the AWS Web Service, the AWS Task container, all the needed ones. Uh,
Okay, I think we have a few questions like what is the minimum resource required? I think for the mini cube setup, we need minimum 6 GB memory, right?
Correct.
Just for AWS.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so it
not
should be a
also for the Kubernetes cluster to have the AWS instances running on them. That's our minimum requirement to have four CPUs and 6 GB RAM.
yeah. So if you are setting up in the direct like a workstation or laptop, then when you start the mini cube, you can pass these parameters like I need six CPU, then 4 GB, sorry, 6 GB memory, four CPU, like that. So if you are setting up inside a virtual machine, like inside GCP or something, let's say your laptop do not have that much resource, there also you need to mention this because the AWX port itself will take a bit.
Correct.
Okay. Can you please update the GitHub repo URL? Sure. Once we update, I mean, once Sharon update everything inside the repository, we will share the repository. You can see the path, but we will share this URL in the video description somewhere. So yeah, it's possible. Uh,
Yeah,
can
you can share this link, meanwhile.
okay. You are sharing the URL now, or we share it later?
Oh, let me update the Minikube installation for the cloud platform, and then I'll share it then.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, once Sharon updated this instruction for the cloud platform, we will share the URL. I mean, it's the same URL. So we will update that and we will share hopefully
Yeah,
by the end of the session or after the session.
yeah,
You can do this inside a virtual machine like a cloud GCP machine or AWX if you have a account with a free credit or something. But you need to adjust this kind of ingress or the routing to get the URL outside. That's it. Otherwise, it should be okay. Migration part. Okay, second is how to migrate the existing database, which I have container as PostgreSQL. Migration part. Do we have any reference, Sharon, or we have to check this and come back?
yeah. We need to check on that one. We'll get back to you.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we will check that part, the migration part. There are some migration tracks and documentation from the community, so we can check around and we can put inside the same GitHub repo
Yeah,
documentation.
yeah. I'll do that.
We will do that. Thank you for I mean that question. Yeah. Which is the best, AWX or Jenkins? you cannot compare in that level. Sharon can explain.
Yeah, AWX it's basically used as a configuration tool, like set up any configuration changes on your infrastructure. Jenkins is used as part of your CI/CD pipeline. So you can integrate Jenkins with AWX, and that both are different tools, like part of the automation.
Okay. Did we miss any questions before we start? Minimum resource we already covered. Yes, I'll be doing the existing machine first. You need to check them. Yeah, we need to check whether you have enough resource. Just check it. So just like 6 GB extra resource for the Minikube. If you have a test cluster like a GK or something like your own Pi cluster, anything is fine. So you can try that as well.
And as you guys see, the installation is done for the AWX, where we can see how pods are up and running for the Postgres and the AWX pod, and we have the service also created. Um, and now to access the URL service. So this is our link to access AWX, and just give a couple minutes. It's updating. All right. So we created a secret for the admin user password. And this is our password for the admin. So you come to the web page and you give admin and the password. And we have the AWX server up and running now. And for the demo part, I have a vegan lab set up. So we have like two Ubuntu and two CentOS servers up and running. So the first thing is like I'm going to go ahead and create the credentials. I'm going to just name them as machine credentials, and since we're going to use a default organization, we can use default organization. And the credential type, since we're accessing directly the machine, I'm going to use the machines and there's a username and the password. We can also put a such private key or any or the certificate for that. And as we know, we need a escalation method sudo and to the root and the root password, and we're going to save the credentials. The next is the inventories, and so I'm going to give so let's have like inventory 1, and we have common variables and user vagrant, and here we can add hosts. and you're gonna just click the host name, and you're gonna say CentOS.com. And since this is not part of the DNS resolved, I'm gonna give the IP address. I'm gonna save it. And if you want to add another host, say open21.com, and again, we're going to give the IP address for that. Okay, so we have two hosts added, and we can put them in the separate groups, so like CentOS group and um, Ubuntu group, but it's not needed now. Um, and let's add the project. So I'm gonna add the project one, and it's a Git, and this is a source control URL. And since mine is a public repo, I don't need to put any credentials. But if you want, you can. All you need to do is like you're gonna come back to credentials. You're gonna add the credentials, name the credentials, and the type will be source control credentials. And you're gonna put your username, password, or any generated token from the Git or GitLab. So once the project, after you're saving it, you need to click the sync. This is where it clones the repo and saves under the default base path, and this is the project directory. So since it is successful, the project is synced. Now I can go ahead and create a template. Say I want to do a server status, and we have the inventory one. And for the project, it's a project one. When you set the project, it syncs up the playbooks. So say I have a ping playbook, and the credentials I'm using is a machine credentials. And I'm giving a privilege escalation and save it. And let's launch it and see. Okay. You want to test your inventory here to make sure they are working good. You can run ad hoc command. And the machine credentials and the launch. Okay, so this is a good sign that two target hosts are able to are working good. You can see this message, and so you want to add another job, job 2, and same thing, inventory, what project we added, and let's say we have a OS patch update, and save it, and we can go ahead and launch it. think I gave a wrong name here. Sorry about that. And you can see the job is still running. It's updating the packages. Um, while that's updating, I'll show you the how we can create a workflow template. And it's a default organization. And this is our inventory here. And once you save it, it opens a visualizer where you click the start and let's create one job. Give me a second. Let's create another one. Docker install. And select the project. And we have the Docker install playbook. Okay, this one is failed. And okay. And if you anytime you've made any changes in your repository, all you have to do is like come to the project, and if you click this sync project, it updates all your changes you made from your Git repo. And once it is done, you can come back. I'm gonna rename this one as first batch. And anytime when you rename a job, it automatically should update here. Okay. So I'm gonna rerun. I'm gonna do the job again, so that it updates the Ubuntu server. And the previous job extension we already patched the CentOS server, so it's not going to update that one. Now it's going to update Ubuntu server.
I think there is a question like, is there automatic way for syncing from Git? Actually, there is no automatic sync, so you have an option to check out every time before it's running. I think it's available in AWX as well.
Yeah, we can do like update revision on launch every time when you execute a job. It basically syncs up the project every time, and then it executes the job. So we can use this option, update revision on launch.
I think the answer is clear. There was one more question. The upgrade one, migrate one, we will try to find the details and share inside the report. Right now, we do not have the details because the focus is on more on the installation, the fresh installation. There was one question. Can we schedule and execute a custom shell script in AWX? Mm,
Yes, we can.
yeah,
But
we can.
basically, you have to create a playbook for that and the job template. And once each job template is tested or it's ready, you can schedule a job under the scheduling under schedules. You can schedule the job here and you can give the time and everything.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So basically, that's a scheduling of the job template. Yeah, you have to
Right.
call it via a playbook.
Correct. Basically, the shell script needs to be part of the playbook task and then create the job template and then we can input that job template in the schedules part. Okay, now the Ubuntu server is also patched. Now let's say we want to create a workflow where we want to check the server status, patch the servers, and then install the Docker and say edit and we get the workflow one and default organization and the inventory we're going to do, save it and no. So I'm going to click the start. And the first one we're going to do is the server status, the job template, save it. And you can add the next. So you can see the options here, add a new node or next job details, edit this job, and we can link and or we can delete it. So here we're going to click the next on success or failure always. We're going to select OS patch once the server status is successful. And once the service patch is successful, we can select not on the job, we can select next project saying and next select the job template and we can select the Docker install. And as you can see, the workflow has three jobs. It's going to start with the server, check the server status. Once it is successful, it's going to patch the servers. And once it is successful, it's going to do the Docker install. And then you can save it. And once you save it, hit the launch. Now we can see, can clearly show which job is running. And you can click to view it, the details like, the output and see the server is up, and you can go back to the workflow. Now it's OS patching. And it can also display the time. It is a good option, like, how much time it took uh, for each job template it's executing. Now it's executing the Docker install and the OS patch we already did before. So it came back up. And now let's see, Docker install, it's failed. What is permission denied? Oh, okay, it's my fault. I didn't select the credentials. Okay, let me go and execute the workflow again. So JD here meaning the job template. Now you can see it's executing the Docker template, and okay, so it converted Docker installation on the Ubuntu and CentOS. Okay. But either way, so one of the job has been failed, but the workflow, you can see like this, all the success one are in the green, and this one shows it's failed because the CentOS has some issues. But it installed on the Ubuntu server. So, but that's how you can use the workflow to execute one or more playbooks at a time, and it's also easy to control in the visualizer how you can execute the jobs for the where is the visualizer? So say like before, after this, you want to do on success, do a project sync, for example. You can select our project and you can just save. So what happens, it's like it syncs the project and then it executes the Docker, what are the job template we want to execute. So this is how we can control the workflow in many ways. Um, and this concludes about AWX, how we can create the job templates, how we can create the inventories, sync the project and create them, the credentials. And the one thing is like, say we have user one, and it's a normal user. You can select anything like auditor basically has only the read permission, administrator basically it has admin permissions. Um, and say we have user two, just giving a user two password, user two password, random email. And for every, how we can do the RBAC is like, say, come to the inventory, and here, click the edit. So come to the access. Here you can provide the names. Say like we have users. Say, let's select the both. Next, and here I can select the permissions. Select admin. Basically, he can have read and write. Like he can change, make any changes, and any kind of permissions you like to have, you can give him those access for that specific user. Same thing for the project. You come under the access and you add users or the teams. Since we don't have the teams, so we're going to select the users and say user one, we like to give him only admin access, and user two as only to use the job. So what he has is only can use the project, but he cannot make any changes like like admin does for this project, like make any changes in the project or change the source control. He cannot do any of those. All he can do is only he can use this project. That's all. Same thing for the templates. He can control. Say you're in a production environment and we have this OS patch. You can add the users except admin in such a way like only can they can execute the jobs, and they cannot do anything. All they can do is like execute the jobs, and the user one will have, when he comes to templates, he will see only the OS patch with the execute option, like which is our launch raw small rocket button. So that's how we can control the role-based access controls for the users, and on AWX, which is also a good security version where you can control the job templates for each users or the teams. So this concludes about the AWX installation on the Minikube. I mean on the Kubernetes and the demo. Thank you everyone. And I'm going to work on the repo and update it for the setting of the Minikube on the cloud, and also I'll update the document about the migration to the latest version.
Okay, that was indeed a great session. Thank you, Sharon. So
Okay.
We will go ahead and take some time for remaining questions, if any. Just remember, please be sure to type your questions into the chat box. There was a question um, like, what was it? Okay, can we run multiple templates parallelly? Yes, you can. You can just schedule the job and switch the screen, or even log out and go for a coffee. So you can check the job status later. Yes, it's possible.
Yes, you can. Once you execute the job, you can go into the jobs. Um, Let me show you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sharing my screen, I guess.
You are sharing your screen, right?
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen now.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So anytime, say like we have executed a job, for example, OS batch, um, you can come onto the job category and you can see the job details, like the job details, who executed, and all the details, and also the output of the job here with the timestamps.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So you don't need to wait for the job to be completed. Even I think we already explained. You can just schedule a job like say a scanning or some patching job. Still, you can go and schedule it in your in the scheduler. So under the job template, you have an option to schedule the job template.
Right here.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so if you come into the job template and you can schedule it and you can add and say some, you can name anything, schedule one, and you can say like say sometime on Saturday 8:45 a.m. and you can select the time zone for that and run frequency. Um, since we are doing only one time, you can just put only run once. But if you want like every month or something, you can just select the frequency and just save it.
Okay.
And
Yes.
it's scheduled now. And every time, if you want to turn it off, you can just use this small button here, on and off. And that takes care of it. And also the notifications. You need to create a notification here. Say notification and choose notification type is email and username is admin and say the host is local host. And here we put the recipient's email addresses, like your group emails, organization emails, and the sender email going to be from this AWX, and the port, I think it's 25. And once you can select some timeout and just save it. What happened? And once this notification is set up, you can test notifications like clicking the small bell icon. It's going to fail because we don't have the email set up. But say you have this job and we can select come to the notification, and here will be see your notification types, which you created, and you can select the type of notifications you want, like start, success, or failure. And what happens is, like, when the job is successful, it's going to send you a notification to your email, the success message or anything.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. There is one more question. Like, can we try AWS in Docker container? Yes, it was. I mean, like the version 17 or below, you can try in this as a Docker-based installation, but 18 and above is like the one Sharon already shared. It's based on the Kubernetes or Minikube-based installation. Yeah. So answer is yes or no. Yes or no.
If you're using latest version, I'm sorry. If you're using latest version, I Docker is not recommended one, but the older versions, 14 and 15, you can able to run it on Docker. Anything higher than that version, it's like good to run on Kubernetes or OpenShift platforms.
Okay. I think we have covered almost all our questions.
Okay.
Yeah, Sharon, is there anything else you want to cover before wrap up?
Um, no, I'm gonna work on those two. How to set up the Minikube with the cloud and also the migration document, and I'm gonna update my Git repo and I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna share my repo once it is done.
Okay, okay. Yeah, thank you for that. Great. And thank you everyone. We appreciate you being here, and thank you Sharon for sharing such a wonderful session with us. Hope we will have more such sessions very soon. We will have few sessions already planned. We didn't announce yet. We have to check the timing, schedule, and all. Please submit your suggestion and other topics, whatever the feedbacks via feedback form. You can find Sharon in LinkedIn and connect with him. He's a kind of you can just ask him for the help. Yeah, he's a guy. So and for the feedback, you can just find the feedback form. You can just scan it and submit your feedbacks. How was the session? How we can improve? And if you want to try some you want to suggest some topics like, okay, we want to cover this one, we cannot find this in the documentation, something like that. Yeah, we can arrange that. We will try to arrange the sessions with guys like Sharon and others. Yeah, that's it actually. And thank you all for joining. Thank you again. See you next time with another in the next section. Yeah. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. See you all. Stay safe. Bye bye.
Bye.